Can your children go to school in the United States while you are here on an immigration visa? That's the question we're going to talk about today. I'm immigration attorney Keilani Hans Villafranca. I help my clients from all over the world who want to live and work in the United States to further their families, their careers, and their future. And this question comes up all the time. Abogada, attorney Keilani, if I'm in the US with my visa as a parent, can my kids go to school? And that's a really important question to ask, because if your children go to school in the United States without the valid immigration status to do so, they could be violating their own immigration status and cause themselves problems in the future. I know as a parent, you want what's best for your children. And if you're moving to the US, you're probably thinking about their future in the US. Whether you stay here a long time or you come and go, you want them to have the opportunity to live in the US in the future, maybe to study here in college, to work here as an adult. And you don't want to mess that up for them. And that's why this question is really important. So it's really important to know that children who are in the United States in a visitor visa status may not go to school in visitor visa status. Going to school in a visitor visa status is a violation of your visitor visa. And your child's visitor visa can be taken away from them for going to school in visitor visa status, and they can be prevented from getting future visas because they violated their status in the past. Now, if you go to the local school and ask to enroll your child in school, they will let you. It is lawful in the United States for any child to be let into a school. And that is because we are talking about two different kinds of law. We're talking about constitutional law and the right to an education, and immigration law and the right to a visa. And those are different things. Under the constitutional principles of the United States, every child has a right to be educated. And so if a child is in the country, a school cannot turn them away. If a child is living here and you go to school and say, my child lives here and I need them to get an education, the school will say, absolutely, let me sign you up. But doing so could harm their immigration future. So knowing that is very important, because if you go to the school, they're not going to tell you that you can't sign up. They very well may let your child sign up for school even if you're here on a visitor visa. And that's because the school doesn't have any ability to turn people away. But later when you apply for an immigration status, immigration may look at that and say, these children were in the US on a visitor visa while at the same time that they were enrolled in school here in the United States. And that's not okay for immigration purposes. You violated your immigration status, your children did. And so your children will be harmed in the future when trying to get a different status. So that's important to keep in mind. So when can your kids go to school in the US? If you are here in a lawful status, any kind of visa other than a visitor visa, other than a B1, B2 visa, then it is very likely your children will be able to go to school in the United States. Now, I don't want to say 100% likely because there are always unique circumstances, but generally, if you, the parent, are in the US on any sort of valid visa status, your children can enroll in US public schools, in private schools, in any valid accredited educational institution, and they can go to school in the United States. Now, the last thing we need to talk about is if your children want to get a student visa for themselves. There are unique rules that allow for this. If your children would like to go to private school in the United States, they can get a student visa to enroll in private school in the United States. Sometimes you can get a visa to enroll in public school in the United States, but those rules are very limited, and you usually have to pay the public school to attend if you're coming on a student visa. So that's very important to keep in mind. If you're thinking about getting a student visa for your child and you're thinking of enrolling them in public school, there are limited ways to do that, and you usually have to pay the public school as well. So your children can get student visas to attend a private school. If the private school will admit them, that's just fine. It's like any other student visa, and they can come and live here. As a parent, you can come in as a visitor of a student on a student visa. So if your child is in the US with their own student visa, you can accompany that child as a visitor. It's important to keep in mind, you don't have any status other than visitor. So the only thing you can do is be here and support your child and take care of your child. You can't work, you can't earn money, and you can't do anything else other than just be here as the parent or guardian of that minor child. So that is the big picture of whether or not your kids can study in the United States. Your minor children cannot study in the United States on a visitor visa. They can study in the United States if they're accompanying you and you're in any lawful immigration status other than a visitor. They can also study in the United States with their own student visa for any private school or in certain circumstances for public schools. I hope this information has been helpful. If you want to talk about your case, you're always welcome to call my law firm. We offer paid consultations for immigration matters, and we'd be happy to help you with your case. Give us a call. Bye.